Another question I have is about just being an EFT therapist, right? What, from your viewpoint, you train many therapists, right? What are some of the most common pitfalls or mistakes that you notice, like a early or younger, like a EFT therapist make? Some of the pitfalls and mistakes that they oftentimes do make.
I think younger therapists, it just it takes time to learn to dance any dance, right?
Mm.
And that's the truth. I hope that they'll look at training tapes, and look at transcripts that are in our chapters so that they get a feel for the rhythm and the pacing. But I think sometimes younger therapists don't understand about timing and that you have to repeat something. If I say something to you in a foreign language, if I say that's an oobly wobbly, the first time I say it, you go, no, it isn't. No, what? And then the second time you say, what? What did you say? And the third time I say it, you say, sorry, what did you say? And the fourth time I say it, you say, is it? What is an oobly wobbly? And the fifth time I say it, you say, oh, is that what an ibbly wobbly is?
Right.
The sixth time I say it, you say, maybe it's an ibbly wobbly. And what does that mean if there's something in the world called an ibbly wobbly? So you have to tune into the client. It's about attunement. I relate it to dancing tango. I dance Argentine tango.
Okay.
When you first start dancing Argentine tango, which is a very difficult dance, okay, because it's improvised. There's no real structure, okay? You learn the steps and then you throw them away. But in the beginning, you think it's about the steps. You learn the steps.
Right.
And then one day you suddenly realize that it's about tuning in to the music and your partner. It's about attunement. And then the steps start to do you, and the emotional music does you. And you know how to tune in and follow the client and follow the process of EFT and use emotion. I think one of the big things that's come for me from working with couples is that we don't just label. That's the other thing. My behaviorist colleagues say, "Oh, we work with emotion." I say, "No, you don't." Yes, we do. What they mean is they label it.
That's right.
And in EFT, what you're doing is you're moving people into it. They have a felt sense of it. That takes time.
Right.
It takes time for them to taste it, deal with it, own it, find a way to express it coherently, right? Maybe turn and say it to another person. That's another way of making it real. This takes time. It's about tuning into yourself, the emotional music, tuning into your partner, and then you start to move together, and that's why tango is so beautiful. It's about the attunement. That takes time to learn.
Right.
And it's hard to learn when you're anxious and you're saying, oh, what am I supposed to do next? Let me see, oh my goodness. I say to people, when you get lost, don't worry. When you're lost, you say, could we stop, please? I'd like to stop. I'm feeling a little lost. And then you go back to the place before you got lost. I always say, go back to the emotion. Tie it to could you help me? I'd like to go back. You said you're very angry, but could you help me? Because right now, as you talk about this, your face looks so sad to me. Could you help me understand what you just said? So then somebody's gone off into some long story about their family, which proves that their partner is a complete creep, right? And I go back to the last emotional thing they said, and I ground them. So I think it takes time. Any dance that's worth dancing takes time. I also think that therapists come in being a bit afraid of emotion, not knowing what to do with it. And hopefully we show them how to work with that in EFT so that they follow it and stay with it. And the other thing where people get stuck is they're scared of creating these interactions. They're scared they're going to go wrong. And what I always say to my students is, of course they're going to go wrong. They're going to go fantastically, splendidly, amazingly, chaotically wrong. So let's look at how you deal with that. and we talk about catching the bullet.
Yes.
Where we talk about how when somebody has just come out and taken a risk and their partner annihilates them, how do you step into that space and stop and create safety for the vulnerable person and focus on the process of you replay it, you catch the bullet, you say, what just happened here? Could you help me? What just happened? And then you replay it and you make it the person who became aggressive's processing problem. You say, could you help me? Did you hear your partner say? And you run the message past them another 6 times. What happens to you when you hear that message? You don't say, how on earth can you be so aggressive when I've worked so hard to get this other person to take risks with you? You could say that, but you don't. You say, what happens to you when your partner comes out and reaches for you? And do you see him reaching for you? What happens to you? And you help them process that differently, right? So we help them understand how to deal with those interactions. Right. And we find, I think once you get to know the model and you start to be able to dance with the music and trust the process, right? And trust the model. You have to be. It's like riding a bicycle. You have to be able to trust the model. So it's going to be awkward at first. Yes. But once you start being able to do that, what mostly people tell me is, I can't believe the difference EFT makes to my practice. Right. I can't believe it. I know how to do this now. Right. And part of it is you're tuning into and using the emotional music rather than just trying to contain it all the time. Right. Or go past it. I've watched people teaching famous therapists teaching couples skill sequences of what they're supposed to say. And you look at the couple's faces, and they're doing this empathic skill sequence. They're going through the motions. And if you look at their faces, they're enraged at each other, right? And you know that the minute the sequence is finished, the rage is just going to... And there's a beautiful sequence, actually, where I'm watching some famous therapists do this, and the therapist says, well, you did very well. You did very, very well. I'm blown away that you could do that with your highly escalated relationship, that you look at how good you were. You did very well. And the man says, yes, I think we did do very well. I think that we did. I think it was amazing. But what I really want to say to you is... right? Right. So we follow the power of the emotion and use it rather than trying to always contain it. Of course, sometimes we do contain it. We contain it with our empathy and our soothing. Right. But we follow it and use it. So, so then therapy becomes a safe adventure for your clients and for you. Right. I still find therapy amazingly fascinating. Right. And I can't imagine. Somebody said to me, well, will you keep doing therapy until you die? And I said, of course. Why would you retire when you found the most fascinating thing in the world? Right. Which is, helping people deal with their intimate relationships. But every couple is a new adventure. And interesting, I always learn something from every couple. Right. Right. Oh, definitely. I think something that you said earlier really resonated with me about trusting the process. Yeah. Right? It's almost like that's the hardest part for most people that I supervise, myself included, right? That is almost like once they hit a bit of a bump, a roadblock, they go back to that's the default, right? But I find it when I really learn EFT, when I really trust the process, stick with it, fumble through it, making mistakes through it, that's when I really learn the model, and that's when I really see couples shift, right? I agree with you. Yeah. And I think you only learn that over time. I can remember doing sessions years ago and thinking, oh my goodness, this couple stumbled here. We didn't really make any progress. Oh my goodness, that they did fine in the last few sessions, but now it's all going to go to hell. And then they come back in the next time and they say, well, we talked about the fact that we got stuck last time, and they're in a different space, and we go on, and they make progress. And I've learned to trust that. Yeah. I've learned to, Rogers said, people self-heal. If you give people safety and you stay with them while they stumble, they have a natural tendency to self-healing, self-actualization. You just follow the process, but you have to hang in. I mean, if you flip into making behavioral deals or teaching skills or, you know, and I think the research is a good guide. I mean, all the research comes out again and again and again that teaching couple skills doesn't change the relationship.
Right.
They can learn them to a certain extent, especially in the session with you, but it doesn't change their relationship satisfaction. Because the bottom line is, when you're home, you don't use them. And what I say to therapists is, you know that, I don't have to prove it to you. How many of you use all your therapy skills, you know, in your sessions when you in a fight with your partner?
Right.
Well, if you try to, it becomes a problem, actually.
Right.
You know, and everyone looks at me. You know, I can remember interactions when my mother used to visit from England. Within 30 seconds, you know, all my knowledge of psychology was completely out the window, and her and I would be stuck in the same dance that we've done since I was 11. Right? Basically her saying, I'm going to criticize you and tell you what to do, and me saying, the hell you are, I'm going to smack you and stonewall you. And then she would stop, and then we'd start all over again. And we'd do that until she got on the plane to go home. Right? And I'd try everything of course I couldn't do it. I needed a therapist. Right? From my point of view, I tried everything to shift that, and it would work for 10 seconds.
Right.
Right.
So. That makes a lot of sense.